Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today, we're going to get into something I think a lot of people struggle with, and that's creating engaging and effective training materials.
Right.
But guess what?
Yeah.
You're not alone. You sent us in a materials and resources template and a rubric.
Mm.
So that tells me you're already kind of a step ahead of the game.
Yeah, you're already thinking about this the right way.
Exactly. So let's break down these resources and figure out just how they can help you nail your next training.
Absolutely.
Okay.
But I think what's interesting about this template is that it's not just a form you fill out.
Yeah.
It's a roadmap to building a training program that actually works and gets results.
Okay, so let's talk about that roadmap. So the template breaks things down into three main sections: project overview,
Right.
suggested training materials, and accessibility and inclusivity considerations.
Yeah,
It seems pretty straightforward, but I'm guessing there's more to it than meets the eye.
absolutely. The project overview, this is kind of where the magic starts. You know, I've seen so many training plans where they jump right into the materials without a clear sense of purpose, right? Like, what are we even doing here? What are we trying to achieve?
Yeah.
This section forces you to define those goals right up front.
Right.
What specific skills or knowledge do you want your trainees to walk away with, and how are the materials actually going to help them get there?
Yeah,
So it's about getting laser focused on your objectives from the very beginning.
that makes total sense.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't hit a target, if you don't know what you're aiming for.
Right.
Right. But I'm really curious about this suggested training materials section.
Yeah.
Because it lists like a whole smorgasbord of different options.
Yeah.
Presentations, handouts, job aids, e-learning modules, videos, even interactive simulations.
Mm-hmm.
How do you even know which materials will work best for a specific training?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah.
That's where the real art of instructional design comes in. So you know how we were talking about those learning objectives in the project overview? This is where we actually connect the dots.
Yeah.
So for example, if you're teaching a technical skill,
Right.
hands-on activities or simulations might be a lot more effective than a simple lecture.
Makes sense.
But on the other hand, if you're conveying a lot of complex information,
Yeah.
a well-structured presentation with supporting handouts might be the way to go.
Yeah.
So the key is to choose materials that align with your goals and cater to those different learning styles.
So it's not about using all the tools in the toolbox.
Right.
It's about choosing the right ones.
Exactly.
I like that analogy.
Yeah.
But let's be honest, sometimes, even when we're careful about picking the right materials,
Mm-hmm.
things can still fall flat.
Right.
How can we be sure our training is hitting the mark?
Mm-hmm.
How do we know it's working?
Well, you've also got that rubric.
Right.
I think this is where things get really exciting.
Yeah.
Because the rubric actually helps you evaluate each section of your materials and resources plan. So you're not just checking boxes, but you're actually creating a high-quality learning experience. So it's like having a built-in quality control system.
Okay, I'm intrigued. So walk me through how we can use this rubric to really create something exemplary.
Okay, let's start with the project overview again.
Okay.
So the rubric highlights the importance of having a really comprehensive introduction.
Right.
But what does comprehensive actually mean?
Yeah.
It's not just about stating your objectives.
Okay.
It's about painting a vivid picture of the problem you're trying to solve with this training.
Yeah.
Why is this training important? What are the consequences if you don't address these skills or these knowledge gaps?
Right.
And most importantly, how will this training benefit the trainees themselves?
Right.
You want to hook them from the get-go.
Yeah.
Make them feel like, wow, this training is worth my time and effort.
So we're not just telling them what they'll learn,
Exactly.
but why they should care.
Yeah,
I can see how that would make a huge difference in terms of engagement.
absolutely.
But how does the rubric kind of guide us when it comes to actually creating the materials themselves?
Okay, well, let's take the suggested training materials section, for example.
Okay.
The rubric really emphasizes the importance of aligning your materials with those learning objectives.
Right.
We keep talking about those.
Yeah.
Let's say one of your objectives is for trainees to be able to identify and troubleshoot a specific technical problem.
Okay.
A simple PowerPoint presentation might not cut it there.
Right.
The rubric encourages you to think outside the box.
Yeah.
Maybe you incorporate a hands-on activity where they actually have to diagnose a simulated problem,
Oh,
or a job aid with those clear step-by-step instructions.
that's it.
It's about going beyond the obvious and really thinking about what will help those trainees achieve mastery.
So it's not just about creating stuff.
Right.
It's about creating the right stuff.
Exactly. The stuff that actually moves the needle.
Yes. I'm starting to see how powerful this rubric can be.
It is. It's all about being intentional and purposeful with your choices.
Right.
The rubric helps you ask those tough questions and make sure that your materials aren't just flashy, but they actually contribute to a meaningful learning experience.
Now, one section of the template I'm particularly interested in is this accessibility and inclusivity considerations section.
Yeah,
I think we all want to create training that is accessible to everyone,
of course.
but I know it can be really challenging to get it right.
It can be.
So how does the rubric help us navigate this?
Well, the rubric pushes you to think about accessibility and inclusivity from the very beginning, not as an afterthought.
Yeah.
It encourages you to consider all those diverse learning styles and abilities and backgrounds.
Right.
Are your materials designed for people with visual or auditory impairments? Have you used clear and concise language that avoids all that technical jargon?
Right.
Does your training environment accommodate different physical needs?
Yeah.
And are your examples and scenarios culturally sensitive and relevant to all your participants?
Yeah.
These are all those crucial questions that the rubric actually helps you address.
Okay.
It's about creating an inclusive learning environment
Yes.
where everyone feels welcomed and respected and empowered to succeed.
Absolutely.
And the rubric provides specific guidance on how to achieve that.
Okay.
For instance, when it's evaluating your visuals,
Right.
the rubric doesn't just ask if they're accessible,
Uh-huh.
it digs deeper.
Right.
It prompts you to consider things like color contrast and font size and the use of alternative text descriptions for images.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
So it's really about going beyond, just those basic accessibility checklists.
Yes.
And thinking about the nuances of how people actually learn and process information.
Exactly. It's about fostering a sense of belonging and ensuring that everyone has that equal opportunity to learn and grow.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's say I've, meticulously planned my training using the template,
Okay.
and I'm ready to start creating my materials. How can I actually use the rubric in this next phase of the process?
Think of the rubric as your trusted sidekick throughout that whole development process.
Okay.
So let's imagine you're working on a PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah.
The rubric reminds you to consider accessibility features like closed captions for videos
Right.
and alternative text for images.
Okay.
But it also encourages you to think really critically about the design and the content of your slides.
Yeah.
Are you using clear and concise language that's easy to understand?
Hmm.
Are your visuals engaging and relevant to the content? Have you avoided those distracting animations or transitions that might be problematic for some learners?
Yeah.
The rubric helps you refine and polish your work to ensure it's not just informative, but also engaging and accessible.
So it sounds like the rubric's almost like having a coach in your corner,
Exactly.
constantly pushing you to do your best work.
Yes.
But, let's be honest, aiming for exemplary in every single area can feel a little daunting.
It can.
Are there any situations where it might be okay to settle for, proficient
Sure.
or even approaching?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
It's important to remember that the rubric is a guide, not a straitjacket.
Okay.
You don't need to achieve perfection in every area to create effective training.
Right.
There might be times when, due to time constraints or resource limitations,
Yeah.
you need to make those strategic decisions about where to focus your efforts.
Makes sense.
For example, if you're developing a short training video,
Okay.
you might prioritize clear audio and visuals
Right.
over really intricate interactive elements.
So it's about being mindful of your resources
Right.
and making choices that align with your overall training goals.
Absolutely.
But how do you know when it's okay to compromise
Yeah.
and when it's crucial to push for that exemplary level?
That's where your judgment as an instructional designer comes in.
Okay.
You need to weigh the importance of each criterion against your specific context and those learning objectives.
Right.
If a particular criterion is essential for achieving your training goals
Right.
or ensuring inclusivity,
Yeah.
then it's worth striving for excellence.
Okay.
But if a criterion is less critical,
Right.
you might choose to focus your energy elsewhere.
I see.
The key is to be deliberate and thoughtful in your decision-making.
So it's a balancing act.
Yeah.
We're aiming for excellence whenever possible, but
Yeah.
we're also recognizing that sometimes we need to be strategic and prioritize.
Exactly. The rubric helps you make those decisions in a way that is informed and aligned with best practices.
Oh.
It's a tool that empowers you to create those high-quality training experiences while also acknowledging those realities of time budget and other constraints.
I love how the template and rubric kind of work together.
Yeah.
Like the template provides the blueprint for building a house.
Right.
And the rubric is The inspector making sure everything is up to code
I love that analogy.
and meets the highest standards.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And just like with building a house, the end result is something much greater than the sum of its parts.
Absolutely.
By using these tools effectively, you're not just creating training materials.
Right.
You're crafting experiences that can inspire, engage, and empower learners.
And ultimately, isn't that what we all strive for as trainers?
Absolutely.
To create learning experiences that truly make a difference.
Yeah.
It's not just about delivering information.
Right.
It's about igniting a spark,
Yes.
fostering curiosity, and helping people reach their full potential.
Absolutely. And I think that's a perfect segue into the final thought I want to leave our listener with today.
Okay, so what does this all mean for you, our listener,
Right.
as you kind of embark on your next training project?
It means you have at your fingertips powerful tools that can elevate your work from simply delivering information to crafting truly transformative learning experiences. By using the template and the rubric, you can ensure that your materials are not only well-structured and aligned with your objectives, but also engaging, accessible, and inclusive.
We've talked a lot about using these tools,
Yeah.
to make sure you're hitting all the right notes.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm wondering, are there any pitfalls or traps
Oh, yeah.
people should watch out for, even when using these resources? Things that might trip them up along the way.
Yeah, that's such a smart question because even with the best blueprints, things can go awry.
Right.
One common mistake I see is getting so caught up in that exemplary column of the rubric
Right.
that people lose sight of the bigger picture.
Uh-huh.
Remember, this is a guide, not a set of rigid rules.
Okay.
Sometimes you need to adapt and make choices based on your specific context and constraints.
So it's about striking that balance between striving for excellence
Yes,
and being flexible when needed.
precisely. Another pitfall is forgetting about the human element.
Oh, yeah.
These tools are fantastic resources,
Right.
but they can't replace your own creativity, your intuition, and your understanding of your audience.
Right.
It's essential to use these tools as a foundation, but also to trust your instincts and make adjustments based on that real-time feedback from your trainees.
Yeah. It's that reminder that training is ultimately about people connecting with people.
Exactly.
We can have the most amazing materials in the world,
Right.
but if we don't create a space for genuine interaction and engagement,
Yeah,
we're missing the mark.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
And that brings me to my final thought for our listener today.
Okay.
Remember that training materials are more than just information delivery tools.
Right.
When done well, they can inspire, engage, and empower learners to reach their full potential. They can spark curiosity, ignite passion, and foster a love of lifelong learning.
Yeah.
And that's a truly remarkable thing.
That's a wonderful note to end on.
Thank you.
So to our listener, as you dive into creating your next training program, remember you have the tools, the knowledge, and the power to make a real difference.
You do.
And we're here to support you every step of the way.
Absolutely.
All right, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, everyone.
For another deep dive, we'll see you next time.
Goodbye.
And the rubric can help you create that.
Right.
Yeah, it's all about fostering that sense of belonging and making sure everyone has that equal opportunity.
Okay, so let's say I've meticulously planned my training using the template.
Okay.
I'm ready to start creating the materials.
Uh-huh.
How can I use the rubric in this next phase?
Think of the rubric as your trusted sidekick
Okay.
throughout that development process.
Okay.
Imagine you're working on that PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah.
The rubric reminds you to consider those accessibility features, like closed captions for videos,
Right.
alternative text for images.
Okay.
But it also encourages you to think critically about the design and the content of your slides.
Yeah. Are you using clear, concise language that's easy to understand? Are your visuals engaging and relevant to the content? Have you avoided those distracting animations or transitions that might be problematic for some learners?
Yeah.
The rubric helps you refine and polish your work.
Right.
So it's not just informative, but
Yeah.
also engaging and accessible.
It sounds like the rubric is almost like having a coach in your corner,
Exactly.
constantly pushing you to do your best work.
It is.
But let's be honest, aiming for exemplary in every area can feel a little daunting.
It can.
Are there any situations where it might be okay to just settle for, like, proficient
Sure.
or even approaching?
That's a great question, and it's important to remember that the rubric is a guide, not a straitjacket.
Okay.
You don't have to achieve perfection in every single area to create effective training.
Right.
There might be times when due to time constraints,
Yeah.
resource limitations,
Right.
you need to make strategic decisions about where to focus your efforts.
That makes sense.
For example, if you're developing a short training video,
Okay.
you might prioritize clear audio and visuals over really intricate interactive elements.
Right. So it's about being mindful of your resources
Exactly.
and making choices that align with your overall training goals.
Absolutely.
But how do you know when it's okay to compromise?
Right.
And when it's crucial to push for that exemplary level?
That's where your judgment as an instructional designer comes in.
Okay.
You need to weigh the importance of each criterion against your specific context and your learning objectives.
Okay.
If a particular criterion is essential for achieving your training goals or for ensuring inclusivity, then it's worth striving for excellence.
Okay.
But if a criterion is less critical,
Right.
you might choose to focus your energy elsewhere.
I see.
The key is to be deliberate and thoughtful
Right.
in your decision-making.
So it's a balancing act.
Yeah.
We're aiming for excellence whenever possible, but also recognizing that, sometimes we need to be strategic
Right.
and prioritize.
Exactly. The rubric helps you make those decisions in a way that's informed and aligned with best practices.
Okay.
It's a tool that empowers you to create those high-quality training experiences while also acknowledging the realities of time budget and other constraints.
I love how the template and the rubric work together.
Me too.
It's like the template provides the blueprint for building a house.
Right.
The rubric is the inspector, making sure everything's up to code
I love that analogy.
and meets the highest standard.
That's fantastic.
Right.
And just like with building a house, the end result is something much greater than the sum of its parts.
Absolutely.
By using these tools effectively, you're not just creating training materials, you're crafting experiences
Right.
that can inspire, engage, and empower learners.
And ultimately, isn't that what we all strive for as trainers?
Absolutely.
To create learning experiences that truly make a difference.
Yes.
It's not just about delivering information,
Right.
but about igniting a spark, fostering curiosity,
Mm-hmm.
and helping people reach their full potential.
Absolutely. And I think that's a perfect segue into the final thought I want to leave our listener with today. Yeah, it's about connecting with people and helping them reach their full potential.
Okay, so what does this all mean for you, our listener, as you get ready to, tackle your next training project?
It means that you have these incredible tools right at your fingertips that can help you create truly amazing learning experiences.
Right.
By using the template and the rubric, you can make sure your materials are well organized, they're aligned with your goals, and they're engaging, accessible, and inclusive for everyone.
And we've talked a lot about, using these tools to make sure you hit all the right notes. But are there any pitfalls or traps that people should be aware of,
Oh, yeah.
even when they're using these resources,
Yeah.
things that might trip them up along the way?
That's a great question because even with the best laid plans, things can go wrong.
Right.
One common mistake I see is getting so focused on the exemplary column of the rubric
Yeah.
that you lose sight of the big picture. This is a guide, not a set of unbreakable rules.
Okay.
Sometimes you need to be flexible and adapt based on your specific situation.
So it's about striking that balance between striving for excellence
Right.
and being flexible
Exactly.
when needed.
Another trap is forgetting the human element.
Oh, that's important.
These tools are great, but they can't replace your own creativity and intuition and understanding of your audience.
Right.
Use these tools as a starting point, but trust your instincts and be ready to adjust based on the feedback you get from your trainees.
Yeah, it's a good reminder that training is all about people connecting with people.
Right.
And you can have the most amazing materials,
Exactly.
but if you don't create a space for genuine interaction, you're missing the mark.
You got it.
And that brings us to your final thought for today.
Yes. Remember that training materials are more than just ways to deliver information.
Okay.
When done well, they can inspire, engage, and empower learners to reach their full potential.
I love that.
They can spark curiosity, ignite passion, and encourage a love of lifelong learning.
That's beautiful.
And that's a truly remarkable thing.
That is a wonderful note to end on.
Thank you.
So to our listener, as you embark on your next training journey, remember, you have the tools, the knowledge, and the power to make a real difference.
You do.
And we're here to support you every step of the way.
We are.
Thanks for joining us for another deep dive.
Thanks, everyone.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.